Today is the 12th day of February 2015, and our continuing series on Savitri with Dr. Alok Pandey. Namaskar. We're on the
Secret Knowledge.
Secret Knowledge, Book 1, Canto 4, and a lot more to do on
Yes. It's an amazing canto. What is surprising is that, as we read, this knowledge is not accessible by the senses or by the mind in its present state. And yet Sri Aurobindo brings it so close to us that we almost feel as if just a little bit and we can gain admittance. It's a very profound, high and vast truth that he reveals to us. The other beauty of this canto is he takes us step by step. He first reveals to us few glimpses here and there, and at the same time, while he is doing it, he also contrasts it with the kind of knowledge that we have. For instance, let's read a little bit of on page 49. We'll come back to what we are missing out.
Yes.
But
at the break?
yes,
Yes, exactly.
but right now at the break, yes. So because people often ask this question that all this is fine, but this is an abstraction. Because ordinarily, human mind or the human being does not experience these things. That's why it is secret knowledge. It answers this great question that, we can never prove God by the majority of mankind. It's like we cannot prove man by taking a vote among the monkeys. Apes. The apehood is apehood and manhood is manhood. So something very similar happens, and this is the catch, that we want that statistically a number of people should be able to experience divine, then only we would say it is valid. But on the contrary, because it's a rare experience, we have to grow into it. It's a slow process. What is true is, however, that anybody who is sincere, who has an aspiration, who can turn his sight within, that's what we read last time, and of course, who is ready. So a moment comes when grace reveals that one will find it. So it's something which is potentially accessible to all. But it's not yet natural to man. That's why it is secret, that's why it is screened, and that's why it is subliminal, below the threshold.
Yes.
And yet all of us have hints and glimpses, which we read last time.
Yeah.
Just some of the hints and glimpses of moments when we feel a touch within, when we feel we have awakened to an inner something, a touch of the divine, an inner love, a sweetness, a joy, a pouring of knowledge from above, a peace that transcends all understanding. So these are the touches and glimpses that come. But ordinarily it is not available. We are shut in that part of nature where we think we are free. That's the paradox. So
Yes.
we are shut in the sense experience and loads of information. So we have these lines on page 49. But all is screened, subliminal, mystical. So at worst, it is screened. We just don't see it. When there is an intermediary stage, when it is subliminal, time to time there is a little bit of gap which is rent, and we get a glimpse. So it's subliminal, below the threshold. At best, it remains mystical. We feel there is something, we know it vaguely, hazily, and yet we do not know what it is that we know. So it's something very wonderful. Mystical. So what does it need? It needs the intuitive heart, the inward turn. It needs the power of a spiritual gaze. So just as we had a clue earlier in moments when the inner lamps are lit, so we have another clue that the heart has to grow into intuition. And we know that to grow into intuition, it has to be quietened. So just as the mind must quieten to receive intuition from above, and if all the information is being stirred around and around, we'll never arrive at intuition. And similarly with the heart, when the heart is full of all kinds of strong emotions, passions, violently tossing on the, you know, troubled seas, troubled waters, so it cannot really get the intuition. Even when it gets it, it's so badly fragmented and broken that it's completely a distorted thing. So the heart has to be quiet. So intuitive heart. And an inward turn, which means that instead of looking at things on the surface, we need to look within. And look within with what? These eyes won't do. These are eyes which are too much running from appearance to appearance. So we need the power of the spiritual gaze. And that's where the whole tapasya comes in. When we think of the divine, when all the time we are focused on the divine, then slowly our very eyes undergo a change. There is a power of tapasya. It awakens a new kind of light within the eyes, and we can begin to perceive and, of course, at its best, see the divine. So this is the requirement.
Yes, and Sri Aurobindo makes it very clear to us what happens if we don't have
Yes,
those three things.
so that's how the next comes. Our all too common experience, and it's a very good answer to those who believe that, oh, Sri Aurobindo was in his room, he didn't know what the human condition is. I think when Sri Aurobindo describes the human condition, he is as unparalleled as when he describes the suprahuman condition. So look at how well he knows us. And that's one reason why his answer is even more valid. I mean, leaving apart those who from the heart feel it. But, people often raise this question that what does he know? Like, Gandhiji raised that question when Sri Aurobindo had sent a proposal to accept the check, to accept the Cripps proposal.
Yeah.
He said, what does he know? He is, after all, sitting in his room in Pondicherry. Now, Sri Aurobindo knew very well what humanity is, and he very well knew what is beyond. So why we do not know, and what it appears to our ignorant eye, else to our waking minds, small moment look. A goalless voyage seems our dubious course. So we have bits and packets of information, events, circumstances, but they are the gaps, and we can't make sense of these gaps. Something very nice this morning and something different the afternoon, something else in the evening. Strings of experiences, but we don't have the common thread.
And how strong a goalless voyage.
Goalless voyage. So this is how it looks. Some chance has settled or hazarded some will. So we fill in those gaps by saying chance, accident, etc., etc. Or a necessity without aim or cause, unwillingly compelled to emerge and be. So in these 3-4 lines he summarizes all the vision of modern materialistic science, or a science which is based purely on superficial appearances. Also many philosophies which have never been able to reconcile life here and the experience of the beyond. In this dense field, where nothing is plain or sure, he knew modern physics.
Yeah.
The stool is not sure. We are actually not sure even of our existence. And yet we are so badly identified with it. In this dense field where nothing is plain or sure. And look at the irony of it. Dense field. Normally denseness goes with something very concrete, solid. And yet it looks so solid, and yet nothing is sure. Our very being seems to us questionable. Our life a vague experiment. The soul a flickering light in a strange, ignorant world. The earth a brute, mechanic accident. A net of death in which by chance we live. So we have been hearing this philosophy, these kind of a...
Yes, nihilism and
half-truth.
all of these different
Nihilism.
philosophies.
Indian thought is also full of Mayavad, illusionism. The great Buddha, that this world is created by desire, and one has to just quit there. There is no sense in it, no purpose in it, no aim, no direction. It's frightening, and quite naturally The only way when we are frightened is to close our eyes. But we don't realize that when we close our eyes to the world, we also close our eyes to God and to truth. So we have to go deep, open our eyes, fill it wider, make it deeper and penetrate into its heart. But we close our eyes. So all we have learned appears a doubtful guess. The achievement done a passage or a phase whose farther end is hidden from our sight. A chance happening or a fortuitous fate. So this is how we lead our life from moment to moment, from day to day, from months to months, years to years, and one may say from birth to birth, without knowing why we are, where we are going, even who we are.
And we accomplish something, but what is it? Its end is hidden from our sight.
Because we do not even know what we have truly accomplished. And I give this example when people play a game of football. And now is the season for cricket. Well, they play cricket. So outwardly they think of victory and defeat. So when they win, they say we have accomplished the victory. When they lose, they say we are learning from our failure as to why we did not win. But actually there is a common accomplishment. Everybody who has entered into the game has learned patience, has learned team spirit, has learned perseverance, has learned strength, has grown in wisdom. But that's what we do not see. So we are growing in terms of consciousness, but we are so preoccupied with the outer results. And that's why the great word of the Gita, that Nishkam Karma. If you do it for the results, you miss the real thing. The real result is inward. And it transcends both failure and success. So we do not see, it looks like a goalless voyage. Why did I fail? But we don't fail, we just grow. It's a constant growth. And we raise questions. Why did God do this to me? Why I am ill? So I should be immortal. I should never fall ill. But illness and health, life and death, at the end they both serve to help us grow in consciousness till we can arrive at that point where these are no more necessary. So this is the beauty of this journey, and that's what is happening. And so we have this wonderful passage about the earth, and this is another very beautiful and interesting thing about Sri Aurobindo. Long back in ancient Puranic writings and the Vedas, there is a mention about earth. So according to one Indian tradition, when earth feels the weight of darkness, she goes up and prays to Supreme. And the Supreme comes down. That is the story of avatarhood. Now, it is very interesting in this story that those who are suffering on earth, the human beings, the seers, the sages, they don't go. Earth goes. So it's a yoga of earth which is going on. And the divine does not come for them. He comes for earth, pulled by the earth. The cry, the need in her heart. So there is a yoga of the earth going on, and it will accomplish itself regardless of humanity. But we have the great privilege and the possibility of becoming the link in the great becoming.
And that's why Sri Aurobindo wrote to Dilip that earth is a conscious being.
Absolutely. She is a goddess, even a very dear goddess, because she accepted to become what the great gods denied. She is a goddess, but she chose to become dull matter. It's a great sacrifice, and that's why earth has the exceptional privilege of the divine visiting its dust again and again, because this dust is sacred, precisely because of that great sacrifice. This thought comes several places in Savitri.
Yes.
At one place, of course, it's not only with earth, but with, a god come down and greater by the fall. So this, and it's not an easy thing, this sacrifice. I mean, the divine, of course, keeps repeating it by assuming the earthly matter as his robe. But generally, this sacrifice, there is a story in ancient Indian tradition, and the story is so true because the mother also speaks of it. Mother asked Shiva, would you, all the gods, he said all the gods used to come and sit on the ledge and meditate. She asked them, would you like to participate in the supramental creation, taking a human body? No, 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 no. We'll help from above. And then she says, accept Krishna. He accepted. Shiva refused. He said, I'll work, I'll help. But don't ask me to take a human body. This is there in the legends of Shiva also, way back. That Shiva was asked, would you take a human body? He said, no, under no circumstance. My domain is beyond the grave and the earth, where entirely the ego demolishes itself. Then my domain starts. But I cannot assume this. So here, this is about earth. In the coiled blackness of her nascent course, the earth goddess toils across the sands of time. A being is in her whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see. In her unconscious orbit through the void, out of her mindless depths, she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain, a struggling joy. A thought that can conceive but hardly knows, arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. Okay, marvelous lines. The speech that labels more than it lights. Every time we try to define truth, we finish it. Mother was asked, what is truth? He said, you want me to define it? If I do it, it will be finished. But truth can be known moment to moment by all who are sincerely aspiring to know it. It is not something which can be defined. So very often we label and we finish because we believe, we get trapped into the illusion of knowledge, which is very dangerous. Being ignorant is safe. That's why the weak and the meek shall inherit the earth. Because they know they are weak. So they aspire and pray. But the illusion of knowledge is so dangerous. Look at the doctors. Oh, this is this disease. Now what you have done, you have, along with the label, fixed a whole formation. And you prevent other options, other alternatives, other routes, other bypaths, other possibilities. And mother had to struggle so much with all these labels. Including, madness. What have they not,
But they base it on previous knowledge and it doesn't go any
Which
further.
is an ignorance anyways. Which is an ignorance anyways. So, to keep the mind free of all these labels.
But the wise men talk and sleep.
Sleep. That's what they do. So, the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. And on the next page we have these marvelous lines. And conscious of the high things, not yet won. Somewhere she knows there is a truth to know, a bliss to have, a love which we badly need. So she knows. Ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. So this is the reason for our unease and dis-ease.
Yes.
Takes from us ease and peace. And that's why all halfway solutions, halfway homes of the spirit, they are all right as steps and stages. But Sri Aurobindo did not rest there. And that is the beauty of Sri Aurobindo, that he goes further and further and doesn't rest in the halfway homes of the spirit. As you were saying, just before we started, that someone's experience is so true that you read one mystic and he claims to have found the truth. Another and another and another. And then they end up, or at least their disciples end up fighting about whose truth is greater. But the sign of truth is that it reconciles creation and the creator, this world and the self. Then it will make a perfect sense. Otherwise it's a half truth.
Yeah.
A truth that discards the entire world as if nothing or an illusion or a nightmare or whatever it is. It's a half truth. It has nothing to do with what others have seen. So here, so beautifully, Sri Aurobindo describes, and again, something very powerful. I have always found it very inspiring what follows next. These 3 lines.
Oh, beautiful.
Ignorant and wary and invincible.
Invincible.
I mean, this one line is amazing. You know,
Yes.
it's almost like Caesar came and saw and conquered. Much more marvelous than that. Ignorant. Nothing wrong with that.
And
We
weary.
are all very tired, trying and failing, but invincible.
Invincible.
Refuses to give up. And that's what we should be like, both children of the Divine Mother and children of earth. Refusing to give up till the last breath of many lives to come. Because as children of the earth, we should inherit that. We may be ignorant. It's not a sin to be ignorant. It's not a crime. We are weary. We have tried and tried and tried, maybe many lives, and maybe there are many more to come. It reminds me of a poem of Sri Aurobindo, Meditations of Mandavya. And there is a small little poem. I shall not faint, O Lord. There is a thirst, and the thirst presupposes water somewhere. Yet, old phantoms sit on the way, old ghosts return. So I want to go, but there are fetters. I am not allowed to go. But I will persist. I will not faint, O Lord. This is the spirit of yoga, at least in this yoga. In any yoga. When we look at people who strove and arrived, years and years and years, right next to Raman Maharishi, 17 years sitting in tapasya. Can we imagine? And Sri Aurobindo goes so much further. Years and years, even after having the experience of Vasudevam everywhere, when there is not a penny, where he writes God has contracted a bad habit of giving at the last moment, he doesn't question his will. He doesn't say that, well, I give up. I think that was enough to see Vasudeva everywhere. He goes on and on and on. And look at mother. She says, 30 years I had to delay the journey because of my involvement with the ashram life. And yet she doesn't give up. She doesn't say, oh my God, this is too much. So we are her children. We do not give till the last breath. Till the last breath, in fact, literally, when Pranabda described her last few days, and people in the, down below, they didn't understand what's happening because they felt mother is being scolded. Mother would say, make me walk, like a lioness.
Yes.
And they knew, Pranabda said every time she would stand, she would
Turn blue.
turn blue. So what do? We can't do it. So literally like a child telling his mother, he would say, no mother, you sit, you eat. Because there was no other way they could convey. It was also an act of love. But on the other side, she was also so persistent. This is the spirit. And here, this one line summarizes the spirit of yoga. Ignorant and wary and invincible. She seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain. The goal is there, but also the passage. Quivering pain. It's not a bed of roses. Sri Aurobindo said, what rose-petaled sadhaks you all are.
Yeah.
If there is a little discomfort, you start cribbing and complaining.
So, he calls it the soul's war.
And so many things one has to go through. Things that would shatter mortal nerves. And yet she gives the strength and the grace and the love. She seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs. A breath of Godhead on her stone and mire. A faith she craves that can survive defeat. We follow the reverse process. oh, this didn't go my way, I don't have faith. It never was faith. Faith is faith precisely because it doesn't depend on proofs. It can survive defeat, it can survive death, it can survive the pyre, it can rise up from the grave because it is faith. A faith she craves that can survive defeat. And that's why many times sadhaks have to go through these experiences precisely to awaken that light, that faith. Otherwise, if one is not tested by that fire, how does one grow into steel and a diamond? So this is how it is. A faith she craves that can survive defeat. The sweetness of a love that knows not death. And we give up so soon and become illusionists. Oh, there is nothing like love. It's all just rosy words. There is a love, a true love, a deep love, a love that descends from the heights into the abyss. Just because we have not been able to embody it now, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We dream of it, we wish for it, we aspire for it, and we have to prepare for it.
A love that knows not death.
Knows not death. It goes beyond that. See, that was how the ancient system, how they get distorted. In India, there was this thought that a woman can embody such a tremendous power of love that she can prevent her husband's death. And in Savitri, of course, is the victory over death. And mind you, Sri Aurobindo says conjugal love. So the story works at both levels.
Yes.
It is the story of the soul's love for the divine and the divine's grace, but it's also the story where a human being can embody that love. So you see, the story works at both levels. And such a person was known as Sati in Indian thought, who lived by truth and had such a tremendous love. It was so difficult for even avatars. This is the story of an asura whom Shiva cannot beat. Why? Because his wife loves him with such a tremendous power of truth that even the Lord cannot beat him. And so they have to somehow take her mind away from her one-pointed love for her husband. So the story goes that Vishnu, for a moment, takes the form of this asura and reaches there. And just for a moment she wavers and says, you have come so early, and her mind goes on to another form and she is not able to realize that this is trick of Vishnu. At that moment Shiva kills him. And she realizes it very soon. And she curses him that you have played a trick with me and separated me from my husband. You too have to go through the same pain of separation from your wife through the same trick. And you have acted like a stone because you have not bothered about my love. Of course, Vishnu had to do it for the cosmic balance. Therefore, you too shall become stone. And he says, the benevolent Lord, that I accept your curses and they'll be boons for earth. So he comes as Rama and loses his wife. So the story goes like that. But essentially it is the power of love which goes beyond death. And that thing got distorted later on into women setting themselves ablaze when the husband dies. This was not at all the sense. This was the distortion, but distortion of a deep, profound truth. That there is a love that where you can accompany beyond death. This capacity is there in human nature. We have the tale of Orpheus, which was also
and Eurydice.
Yes. Euripides and Orpheus, where by the music, of course it's a tragic tale in the end because he's not supposed to turn back, and as he turns back she freezes. But the essence is there, that love has the power to bring back out of death. So here it is that love which, the sweetness of a love that knows not death. Its sweetness does not diminish, the radiance of a truth forever sure. And then towards the end, we have these wonderful lines again on the same page. What most she needs, what most exceeds her scope. You see this another beautiful line. Impossible is the God's sign of things to be. So first, when we conceive of something, totally out of the blue, every other part says impossible. Or people say impossible. When one takes to this yoga of transformation, many persons who choose an easier path, they say, oh, all this is, have you ever seen anyone achieving it? It's impossible. And some human beings get carried away by that thought. Now, Sri Aurobindo admits it's difficult, what most she needs, yet it most exceeds her scope. It is easy enough for a little bit of that consciousness to escape into the beyond. But what is it that she wants? A mind unvisited by illusions gleams. A mind which is a mind of light. A mind which is a bright reply to wisdom's occult plane. A will expressive of soul's deity. Right now our will is so weak, impotent. It catches one thing, and while it gets the thing, it loses what it needs the thing for. But a will that expresses the soul's deity, and it accomplishes whatever it wills for. A strength not forced to stumble by its speed. So it's a strength which is perfectly in balance with knowledge, in harmony. Otherwise it will stumble. It will become a titanic strength. A joy that drags not sorrow as its shade. So this is the old nature, lower nature's plan, that every time it gives us a joy, doles out a joy, it charges something for that, some time, energy or whatever. And right below there is a footnote in small letters. You are buying this joy, I am giving you 2 sorrows free. But it's a great boon, because these sorrows save us from getting trapped into that. But yet we are looking for a joy that never gets diminished. Like a beautiful story, Mother says that why should there be pain and suffering at all in a story? It should be a beautiful story from beginning till end. I think there was a movie, not Life is Beautiful, but Life Can Be Beautiful, where everything is wonderful. And the heroine keeps wondering, is it real? There must be something hidden. It's really a story from beginning to end which is beautiful. And I think in education we should ask children to write such a story. Something which is just beautiful. So that is the aspiration of earth. For these she yearns and feels them destined hers. Everything that we yearn has already been granted. We have to just discover it. When I came here, our son got admitted. So we were looking for a house. So Dr. Maheshwari said something very beautiful. He said, don't look for a house, discover it. So I said, yeah, that's very good. But what do you mean? He said, the fact that you have been called here, a house has been kept for you. Now you have to discover your house.
How beautiful.
So beautiful. When we do it the other way around, that I will first have a house and buy it and one day I will come, it doesn't work out. When something we aspire for, it has been granted. Only thing is how much time it will take, that depends upon our sincerity. For these she yearns and feels them destined hers. This conviction born out of truth, heaven's privilege she claims as her own right. Just is her claim, the all-witnessing gods approve. She is after all a heavenly goddess. That's how Sri Aurobindo says there are 7 earths. And the principle of earth starts from the very highest plane. And there's an experience of the mother also in prayers and meditation, where Sri Aurobindo says that this is a true Vedic experience. So the original earth, which he says in the God's labor, the living truth of you, embodied and fair one day, because that's in the highest planes of existence. And one day it will descend and move in this very body. Just is her claim, the all-witnessing gods approve, clear in a greater light than reason owns. Look at the marvel of these lines. Our intuitions are its title deeds. Reason doesn't know. If rationally, if anyone were to look at ourselves and ask, oh, are you sure you want to do this yoga of transformation? Many would not even know the meaning of the word, and it doesn't matter. But something intuitively feels this is my path, and one goes through. Someone asked a few days back, I think it's worth sharing. The person said, Bhaiya, this path is very difficult. I'm thinking I should take up another path. So I said, one doesn't choose the path based on easy or difficult. One chooses the path based on one's aspiration and the goal one wants to reach. If it's difficult, fine. If it's easy, fine. You have no choice. If it's difficult, try to make it easy. And if it doesn't become easy, still walk the way, because one doesn't choose the path based on that. One chooses it based on something else. So it is difficult, but the gods have approved it. And intuitions are its title deeds. Rationally, no. When a yogi from Himalayas came, he met the mother and said, you are divine and yoga is wonderful, never done, but the material you have chosen is not good.
I remember that.
Mother laughed. She didn't say anything. She knows what the gods have approved. Earth's winged. Our souls accept whatever blind thoughts refuse. Earth's winged chimeras are truth's steeds in heaven. The impossible, God's sign of things to be.
Yes.
Because after all, He has to do wonderful things. If God does easy things, what's the big deal? He must make a butterfly out of caterpillar and a supramental being out of man. Then it's worth His work. Otherwise, what is the point if He comes and opens, as Shubindu says, just to have an ashram would be a very paltry objective if Mother had to come only for this. They have come to do something which our reason thinks is impossible. I think we can pause here and
Yeah.
start a while later.
We'll start in a few minutes again.